India and even abroad. So our responsibility and our task is very heavy. So with that, I would like to welcome every one of you for this webinar. And then our discussion, particularly sharing from different communities and different persons and experiences, are always strengthening our webinar. This is not only a webinar, this is a movement for a change, a movement for a better life. We all know that human trafficking has a lot of history. One can be political history. The other one is economic history and social culture as well. So therefore, let us take it very seriously and then try our best to make it a success. And through this webinar, we get a lot of information, and it is like a school already, that we are coming together and then learning together and then proposing what are the future that holds for us to be engaged. Let us keep a moment of silence, reflecting on the presence of God in our midst, that we are coming together in this manner. Gracious and loving God, we acknowledge your presence. Our program indicated that there will be, our bishop is not available today because for some reason. So now I will invite Dr. Rosa Gaitwad to introduce the webinar today. Over to you, Dr. Rosa Gaitwad.
Thank you, Dr. Rini. As you rightly said, our coming together is a movement and not a webinar for webinar's sake. And our focus this afternoon is on human trafficking from Tripura. Many of you who are from Tripura, we welcome you in a very special way to this webinar. We have a lot to learn from you. While I am based in Guwahati, I was trying to look up the newspapers, and there are a few reports that I would like to share just to stir us up. This is almost a year ago in Hindustan Times, the Jaipur edition. There was this report: trafficked, abused minor from Tripura rescued in Rajasthan. And the report goes on to say that a 14-year-old girl from Tripura was trafficked. She was sold twice, raped multiple times, forcibly married off, had to undergo an abortion. All this in a span of about 4 months, beginning from March 2020 to June 2020. Now, why did this happen? There are usual reasons why people fall into the trap of traffickers. In this case, the girl's father had died a few years ago, and the family was living in extreme poverty. And therefore, a neighbor suggested that if this girl is married off to a good family, then she will be better off and the whole family will benefit. And therefore, the mother agreed to let this girl go to be married off to a good family. Then the report states that for 7 days, this neighbor kept the girl in Silchar in Assam. Now this brings us to the point that Silchar in Assam is also on the traffic route, human trafficking route. And there she was kept for 7 days, where she was physically abused 4 times. Then this person who had taken her from her home in Tripura trafficked her to Delhi, and she was sold in Delhi to a resident of Rajasthan's Junjunu. This happened in April. This person who went to Rajasthan with her sold her again to another neighbor for 2 lakh rupees. And it is the second neighbor of the person who married her. But then it wasn't a proper marriage, and she was ill treated in the home of that man. She managed to escape. Now, when she managed to escape, the husband filed a report, missing persons report, saying that his wife, who was 20 years old, had gone missing. Now, the turn of events that happened, the girl was found by the members of the Rajasthan State Commission for Protection of Child Rights. And when they got the story, they found out that this girl is only 14 years old, and she was already 11 weeks pregnant. Now, this was an unwanted pregnancy, and therefore the girl was given a choice. Do you want to bear this child? And she said no. And so she went in for abortion. Now you notice in this case, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights and different child rights bodies in Tripura and Rajasthan started coordinating efforts to bring her back to Tripura to be with her family. The incident has happened, and in general, government institutions which are supposed to protect people from being trafficked, they are rather reactive, not proactive. That was one incident 1 year ago. A second incident that happened was on 22nd October 2020. In this case, the emergency response support team of Tripura Police, they successfully rescued 2 young girls from Agartala airport. These 2 girls were being taken to Bangalore, and again they were assured a better job and a secured life in Bangalore. However, one of the relatives of those 2 girls was suspicious, so he informed the police. The police got into action and intercepted the at Agartala. So now you note in earlier situations, usually the trafficking takes place via the rail route. But now you notice traffickers have started using the aerial route to traffic children and girls. A third incident on 4th February, this was reported by one Ratnadeep Chaudhary in Guwahati papers, and the title is Girls Trafficked from Brew Camp Rescued in Tripura. Now this tells us about another situation. Many of us are aware that brews are in a sense stateless people, and therefore the Brew refugees have been residing in relief camps in North Tripura since 1997. Now these are refugees in Tripura. They are stateless people. They do not have support for their education, for their employment, and therefore girls from the Brew refugee camps become easy victims of trafficking. And so the report says that one person brought 11 girls, 9 of whom were minors, and he had told them that he was going to introduce them to affluent households in Agartala, where they could work as domestic servants. Now, this is the usual thing that happens. Children being brought to work as domestic servants, they are being trafficked. And here is the case of refugee girls. Now, it's not only just the refugees in Tripura, but this happens to many refugee camps. Poverty, lack of food, no employment traps girls into this trafficking network. Then on 30th June, Tripura News gave a report, 30th June 2021. They gave a report, and the report says human trafficking in Tripura along the Indo-Bangla border is on the rise. The porous international border provides safe corridors to traffickers. There's a usual story: the traffickers lure the girls with good jobs, quality education, better housing, and therefore the families, hoping to get good money, hand over their children to these traffickers. Children are easy to smuggle through the borders. Children are cheaper, and children are easier to control when it comes to controlling them by the traffickers. And therefore children become vulnerable to this system. And the report given by Tripura News, it's called Tripura Infoway, it says that this trafficking racket is for the purpose of sexual slavery, forced labor, forced marriage, and extraction of organs or tissues. Now, this is another dimension to human trafficking. Extraction of organs and tissues from the bodies of the girls. And so, trafficking is a reality in Tripura, and many of our friends from Tripura will be highlighting this. Yesterday's newspaper, yesterday's 1st July 2021, the Meerut Times of a Meerut edition of Times of India rather, it says 40 children taken off a Punjab-bound train at Uttar Pradesh's Muradabad station. All these children were below 15 years of age. They were traveling by the Karma Bhumi Express. Now, this Karma Bhumi Express originates from Jalpaiguri. Earlier we talked about Silchar. Now you can see the travel route by train from Silchar to Jalpaiguri. And it's not just from Tripura. There are other routes that all converge on Siliguri, Jalpaiguri, and from there they are trafficked. So it's a grim situation, a serious situation which we need to address. And I'm sure today's webinar will further stir us into serious reflection and action. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Roser Gaitwad, for your introductory remarks. I think many of the stories, particularly the 5 stories you brought out, are very familiar to us. And so we are having 2 speakers. One is Mr. Dinesh Debbarma, who is right now living in Bangalore, a leader of Tripura communities. And then that will be followed by Ms. Bapita Saikia, a legal consultant. So both of them will be sharing their insights, their experiences. And then after that, we'll have a lively responses and discussion as well. Over to you, Dinesh.
Thank you, Dr. Rini Ralte, and hello, everybody. As the doctor has introduced me as Dinesh Debbarma. I am Dinesh Debbarma, and I'm from Tripura. I reside in Bangalore and also lead a team of Bangalore Tripura People's Society. So I closely work with Dr. Rini Ralte on the Northeast Solidarity Front, and she has been a guide to me from a long time so far. Thanks, Dr. Rini Ralte, for giving me this opportunity today to come and express the things or explain the experiences that we had. I know many people might have gone through the news and might have seen a lot of news that has come up on the newspapers, on YouTube's, or on the TV channels. But there are many other news or many other incidents that are hidden or which has not come in a limelight of any newspapers or any news channels. So we have handled such cases in Bangalore which we could not publish anywhere, and it was not in a condition that we could publish it, which is why we did not publish in any of the newspapers or in any of the TV channels. However, we have taken a huge actions or whatever the actions required. Like, I would like to explain about one of the incidents that Dr. Rini Ralte herself has handled, say in a previous year or back to 2019, right, Doctor? The Brew girl who was raped in Bangalore. The girl was trafficked, not exactly trafficked, but yes, as Dr. Roger Geig would say, they were connected by some people or some agents saying they would be given a good job or some work that they will be able to make their daily livings and their earnings since they come from a poverty background or they come from a poor background. Again, this lady was also from the Brew refugee camp in North Tripura. She was taken to Hyderabad. Later, she worked there for a couple of months. Then, since she was not comfortable there, she was taken back to Chennai. From Chennai, she was brought to Bangalore. And in Bangalore, she was working in one of the farmhouse of some internationals. But in that place where she was working, she was raped brutally by the brother of a driver there. She was she was given this work by a person from a lady from Mizoram, with the name kept unknown. She was tied and raped the whole night and whole day. After which she ran, she could manage to run away from there and connect us or say connect Dr. Rini Ralte's team. That is when we got into the picture and we did all the formalities required. So Dr. Rini Ralte has done all her work, all her hard works, or used all her connections to get that girl justice. So later part, me and Nacho had handled the case on the hearings with the judges and all, and we have sent back the girl to Tripura with the help of with the help of Uvagra Pradyut Manikya Debbarma. So he has helped taking back taking the lady back to Tripura. But however, later part, the surprising part was the victim, the culprit, the rapist's family came back to us asking for some settlements, saying they will give us some amount and was requesting us to close the case, which we ignored. And we have requested the police to take a legal action strictly, not to do any compromise, and we did not compromise on that. That was one of the cases that still is unregistered or would say not published in any of the news or newspapers or TV channels. Another case that we got was of a Muslim lady from Tripura itself, from Agartala. She was also trafficked in the same way. She was promised of some work in Bangalore, Hosur. But when she came to Bangalore, she was taken to some interior place where she did not have any contact with anybody. or neither she knew anything about the languages. There was a language barriers as well, because those people who brought her did not know much of Hindi or English. They were speaking only Kannadas, only the local language of Bangalore. So there was a difficulty. The later she got back to us, after which we have handled the case to one of the NGO team of Tripura itself, and they have taken care of it. So here I would not want to give much of the information, or since we don't have much cases now unregistered, as you have all seen the news that has already come up, the news that has been already published. I would want to request people to come up with certain solutions on how to avoid such cases, and how to bring such cases to limelight and information to somebody who would be able to help, and where we will be able to go and rescue more people who might have been trafficked. So maybe this people who have been trafficked are from the poor family background, or an uneducated family background. They might not be knowing about the life situation, about the current situation outside the state or their home, which they will be told in a different way, and they might be brought outside Tripura, and they might be trafficked here and there, which is really a very scary thing for for all of them who would be trafficked. And as Dr. Rogers said, most of these trafficked people are youngsters, or say teenagers, who doesn't understand, or who don't have that knowledge to understand and what might the consequence be if they believe somebody and go like that. So we are planning for a campaign to come up with an explanation, so that we can spread the information in the local, with the local language, to be aware about such incidents, and to consult somebody when they are being connected about such incident, about such things, about being promised of forgiving a work, or being taken to other states and giving them a good life. So rather than believing to somebody in such news or such informations, we would want to create a forum where they can contact us, and we can help them with right or proper information to save themselves and the future, so that they understand it and come up with different ideas. This is it that I have for today. Since I don't have much of the topic offline, or say unregistered, I don't have much of informations to share anymore today. Since Nacho is not here, Nacho had a couple of cases that he handled personally. I wanted to talk to him, but since he was busy, I couldn't talk to him. So thank you very much again, all of you, for listening to me. I would be grateful, and I'm ready to answer or help anybody, whoever requests from our end. Thank you, Dr. Rindal, and thank you, Roger.
Yes, thank you very much. I know that you have a lot more to share, and then you being stationed in Bangalore is a great help for your own community, particularly as you also already mentioned that there are many cases that are not registered. We don't want to register at all. Yeah. So you remember the how many occasions that we rescue people, and then we help them and actually hide their identity. But amazing how people help each other. How Pradeep himself was helping your community is amazing, single-handed. Buying the flight ticket, somebody to travel with her, and then supporting medical help, so many other taxi and everything. Yeah, living in Bangalore is not an easy one, because every activity requires a lot of money and time. But still, we are managing. And we have a nodal officer, police officer, who has been extremely instrumental at this time. IPS officer, Sir, we call him Sir Srinath Jyoti, who has been helping us in whatever way, not only in crisis, but also in food. So he was collecting several food for us as well. So this is the situation. Thank you very much, Dinesh, for highlighting all these things. Certainly, there will be discussion at the end. So please remain, and
Sure.
you will be answerable to yes. Okay.